Hello guys, welcome to My Steps to Sobriety, my video channel on YouTube and my podcast. And today I have got a guest from the UK. I've got Zuhaib Khan, who is a depression warrior, and he's a warrior who specifically addresses men. And I find that such a beautiful thing, because I often feel that men's health is very much underrepresented. And so I'm dead chuffed that I've got Zuhaib here on my show. So welcome to you, Zuhaib.
Thank you, Stefan, for having me. And I'm totally with you when you said that men, especially men's mental health, we entered 2020 and it's still considered it was one of those taboo subject where people not like to talk about it. Everybody knows it's there in front of us, in front of our eyes, but that's something we are not comfortable talking about. And that's what I am working towards and trying to raise more awareness around it.
How beautiful. What a beautiful vision and what a beautiful mission you have got there. What's the background to that? I mean, you did not grow up at the age of 6, thought, well, actually, I want to be a life coach addressing men's health. What did you want to be when you were 6 years old?
Actually, Stefan, in all fairness, I can't remember exactly what I wanted to be when I was 6. Definitely not a life coach. Definitely not a life coach. I didn't even know what a coach was up until a few years ago. And I'm sure it's pretty much with everyone. But I can remember, I think when I was young, I wanted to be a doctor somehow.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a doctor. Funny enough, I came to UK to become a doctor. And it was too bloody expensive to study medicine in this country, so that plan went out of the window. I wanted to be a doctor. I think helping people was somewhere always down the line within me to help humanity or to help somehow. I always believe that I have a bigger reason to be on this earth. And the only way I could fulfill that was to help other human beings. And I think that was always within me. I have worked in different industries. I have, met so many people. I've researched so much, and that was one common factor that I needed to do something where I can help and help a human being in some or the other shape or form. So that was definitely within me always. But yeah, I think the story behind of being a coach, it started when I was diagnosed with depression. So as you said, I'm a depression warrior, a mental health warrior. And that came into my life when I was diagnosed with depression. And with most of the cases I have come across, the problem with men is, being a man, I was in a constant denial that I needed a help, or I was denial if in my symptoms I was thinking it's going to auto fix, even though it was passed on from my genes. It's in my genes, it's passed on from my maternal genes. So I think one of the biggest things in today's culture, society, world, however you say it, most of the men actually deny that they can be suffering from depression or any mental health, and they ignore the obvious signs, because the symptoms in women are totally different than men. And I got into coaching because I wanted to help men, especially because when I was going through this, I was looking for help. I was going through a journey where I wanted people not to think that I'm weak, but at the same time, I wanted to get help. But in many of the cases, men are afraid to ask for help or afraid to seek that guidance, that support when it comes to mental health. And I said to myself that if I am going through this, or if I have gone through this now, I'm pretty sure there are a million other guys who needed that support and that help and that guidance. And hence I got into coaching because this is something I'm very passionate about. To raising awareness within men, within fathers. I am in quite a few men's group where we talk about different aspects of mental health. We talk about different aspects of mental health in parenting, especially in fathers, and it gives me an inner satisfaction. It gives me an inner satisfaction that I am contributing to being a better human, and I'm contributing to the world. I'm contributing to the universe to support and help another man, another human being.
How beautiful is that? See, I think that's where many of us have got this this destiny in us, that we are healers, that we want to help others. And I think you need to be cut from a certain wood to do that. And I commend you and welcome you to the family of healers here, because we are all there, and that's the reason that we are spending the time here, that we are creating that podcast, that we're out there helping others. And often enough, we have been there. Like you,
Exactly.
I have suffered depression, and it is amazing. I didn't recognize it for what it was, and maybe we should talk about the differences that depression, or that the chameleon of depression, because it can come in any kind of shape and color, and it can disguise itself so beautifully. It is a true master of deception, depression is. How was
I,
depression
I
for you? Hmm?
I completely understand where you're coming from. And what's the funny part is, I'll tell you a little story. Recently, just I think a couple of days ago, one of the Bollywood actors committed suicide, and he was only 34.
I saw
And
that.
he was,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's all over social media news now. But the funny part was when I was discussing, and it kind of shook me. I wasn't even a fan of that guy, but it kind of like shook me, and I felt so sad that a guy who was 2 years younger than me, who had pretty much everything what one can, dream of, and he was only going through depression for like past 6 7 months. But the most interesting part for me was when I was discussing what has happened to him with my colleagues or other men. They turned around to me and said, "But why did he committed suicide when why he had even depression? He had money, he had fame, he had everything he wanted for." And that answer just amazed me, because this is the stigma behind depression. That it, and as you said, it comes in so many colors, in so many shapes, and so many forms,
Mm.
that people think that depression only comes in when you are unhappy in a relationship, or when you are, you are not rich, or when you don't have a luxury lifestyle. But
Mm.
unfortunately, people need to recognize that depression has nothing to do with all those factors. It can contribute. Yes, it can contribute. You can be the richest of the rich. You can be in a perfect relationship, yet you can still suffer from depression. And that conversation, and I thought I have to mention it, because both of those questions or objections were raised by men. And it quite amazed me that how lack of information is out there for men when it comes to depression and when it comes to mental health. And for me, depression was very different. I mean, I just thought I'm just lonely and sad, and I was eating too much. I was sleeping too much, and I thought, what, it's just me being lazy, and that was one of my symptoms.
Mm.
And I just completely ignored it for a few months. I was constantly sad, but then I was trying to fake it. And I know people normally say fake it until you make it, and I hate
Mm.
this term. I just completely don't agree with this term. So it was just like I was faking it, and I was hoping to make it, but obviously that didn't help at all. And yeah, so that's how depression was for me. Eventually it was constant sadness. It was constant, and then it just grew into having a very low self-esteem, low self-confidence, and it got into, where I was, and it got developed into very low self-worth. And at that time I thought, it's not helping me. It's not helping me with my relationship. It's not helping me with my career. It's not helping me physically. I was overweight. I was, and then obviously being overweight. The thing is, when you have mental health, it automatically impacts your physical health, and it was impacting me, my physical health. So I thought, what, let me just go and get a checkup done. And I went to the doctors. They had like 2 sessions with the doctor, and said the third session, he said, you know what, you're going through depression, and here's your antidepressants. And I was like, you can't be serious. It's just not going to happen to me. And you'd be like, no, this is your antidepressant. See how you feel after 3 months. If you feel worse or not improve it, then we'll refer you to a therapy. And I was like, wow. And that was a wow moment in my life. That was a wow moment in my life where I thought, okay, this is serious. I need to do something about it.
No, so true, so true. As I've written a book, My Steps to Sobriety, and in there I've got quite a long chapter, several chapters on depression and its subforms, and I sort of talk a little bit through what would happen if you, as someone who has got symptoms of whatever they are, go to the GP and have a good chat with this person. And I think now is a good time as any to remind the people out there that depression is such a common thing. I mean, the lifetime chance that you develop a bout of depression is 1 in 3. And depending upon what other things happen in your life, that risk might be higher. The girls are a little bit more likely to have it, the depression, but then the boys have got a pretty good chance as well, unfortunately. And it's quite important. It is something that is out there. So you're so right to highlight that. And it can come in all kind of forms. You described the sadness. You described the overeating. For me, it was far more anger, resentment, and a fatalistic, I don't give a damn attitude. A kind of passive aggressive, and it was awful, absolutely awful. But it had, with hindsight, all the hallmarks of it: the poor sleep at night, the overeating. I had the same there, and the feeling of guilt, of shame, of being down, selfless, without self. What do I want to say? Hopeless, and feeling really down about yourself. So very much, but anger was for me the most pressing thing. Everything. I had a hair trigger, and I was certainly not a nice guy to be around.
I completely relate to that. I had anger issues, but that was secondary, and that only impacted my personal relationship. And that's something I'm not proud of now, looking back and reflecting back to my past. But it's quite unfortunate in some part of the world where anger is considered as a male trait. So being angry was like how emotions, if a girl is emotional, I think somewhere in some part of the world it's considered as a normal, because, oh, she's a girl, she's tend to be emotional. And being angry or anger, it's considered to be, okay, he's a guy, he's angry, so what? And I didn't even recognize that the anger had such a big impact on my relationship. But then I was not even thinking about anger or resentment as a sign of depression. I was just taking it as, oh, this is me, this is how I am. So I can completely relate to you. I can totally relate to you.
Zuhaib, what is your cultural origin? Where did you originally come from?
So originally I'm from Pakistan.
Pakistan.
And I was born and brought up in Kuwait.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so you were exposed to other cultures, yet the Kuwaiti culture is again very male dominant and very I don't want to say chauvinistic, but it is the man is the man, and the woman has her
Exactly.
place. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and now in the UK, see, it's funny. Whilst we stereotype Pakistani men and Indian men and Kuwaiti men, at the same token, the stiff English upper lip is exactly the same thing. Just maybe less aggression, but certainly a big mask on the face, and we don't let anything out. We hide it all inside. And
I
then,
I
it is.
completely, yeah, it's exactly the same thing. I mean, obviously there are few obvious things if you go back in Kuwait or Pakistan. I think they are more vocal about these things. They're more vocal. Yes, so I am a man. I have a right to be angry. Whereas in
Mm,
UK, it's all hidden behind the doors, or they try to hide their anger behind the, as I said, to fake it. You put up a facade. You put up a facade. I said this to someone that, men are very good actors. We are very good at faking it when it comes to, to show our emotions. And unfortunately, if I compare, this is personally my observation and generalization. So if I go back and if I compare the men of let's say Western East now, or Western, Western men try to instead of showing anger and resentment, they go on illegal substance or alcohol or drugs to cope up.
yeah.
Whereas different part of the world, men are trying to cope up with anger. It's just a coping mechanism, and it's the easiest mechanism whatever is available for men. And so I think the problem we have as men of any part of the world is it's how we cope up with that particular emotion. And there's a lot of factors involved when it comes to for a man to truly show his emotions. Obviously, your culture, your religion, your society, your background, the environment you live in, they play a very, very important factor. But I think in Western world, I have seen and I have observed that people tend to be more, they rely and they get help from alcohol or substances or drugs to cope up, where in other part of the world, anger is an easy way out.
I mean, we've got for this show here, for this podcast, we have got listeners from all over the world, and it might be interesting to put some statistics there. For example, if you look at the age group 16 to 24 years old and go for the last 10, 15 years, those in that age group, about 10% admit to having taken a Class A drug within the last year. And you're talking heroin, you're talking hardcore drugs. So that is
Hmm.
1 in 10 that is taking it. At one stage, I read that Brighton has got an incidence of IV drug users of 2%. So 50, 1 in 50 is
Wow.
shooting up. And this is just crazy. But you're quite right. I lived in the UK from 94 to 96, and then again in the early 2000s. And what struck me was the discrepancy between day and night. During daytime, when the sun is out, people are
Hmm.
one way, and then in the evening, the alcohol comes out, and
Yeah.
suddenly it is like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's an absolute brutal transformation that then ends up in fights, in violence, in social upheaval that was not known to me before I arrived in the UK. So the UK might be quite a subset of people. Not now labeling, but it's just that was my impression, certainly in those two time periods when I was there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Has it changed
and
much?
and and Well, with the lockdown, yes, it has changed. Obviously, people have no access to alcohol at the moment, and they're all like indoors. But no, I mean, of my observation, you are absolutely right. I mean, again, I'm not labeling or generalizing. But that's the way I have seen. You meet some people during the day, and when they go out, and alcohol is like completely different character. So, when you go out, when you meet people socially, they are different characters when you meet them on, let's per se, on a professional level. And
Mm,
and as I said before, it's very easy for men to put up a facade
mm,
to be something else while at work, let's say, and to be, something else while they are, socializing. Now, one of the figures I have seen is that men are three times more likely to become alcohol dependent
mm,
as compared to women, and it's very unfortunate figure
mm.
because and again, this figure is based on UK data, and it's very unfortunate that alcohol can and does play a very unfortunate part when it comes to mental health,
Mm.
because again, people take it as it's a pain numbing medicine, and I can forget my worries and my emotions when I am under the influence of alcohol. So it's very common. It's very common, and again, without labeling any country or culture or religion, men can do and take whatever is available for them to not to appear or to, not to cope up with their mental health.
So true. So true. What is your religious background, Suhaib?
I'm Muslim.
Muslim. Okay. Um, and in the Islam, it is normally not accepted that you do drink. Yet, I can imagine very much that rules are being bent amongst not such strong believers. Is that fair to say?
I mean, yes, and no, and I think it's again down to individuals. So if you say, if like how if alcohol is available
Mm,
openly in any Muslim country, I would say no. But then, does people have access to alcohol? And I can say yes.
mm.
And it goes down to the individual,
Absolutely,
on the choice
absolutely.
a choice of consuming alcohol. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I yes and no is the answer to your question.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I certainly have explored that with another guest on my show who is Sikh. And in the Sikh culture, again, alcohol is really not accepted. It is more or less taboo. You do not get drunk because that puts a very bad picture onto your family. You do absolutely everything to keep the family reputation intact. Yet,
Hmm.
25% of Sikh in the UK are drinking quite a lot. Thank you very much. So you have not only the men being men and don't open up for that, but you've got also the cultural taboo of not wanting to admit that you are actually consuming something that is not so much accepted in your own culture.
Exactly, and I think culture can play a very important factor when it comes to men and mental health. Like, for example, in my case, one of the biggest factor for me was, I didn't want it to come across weak. And if I disclose that, oh, I have a depression or a mental condition, people will think that I'm a weak man.
Mm.
And deep inside me, I wasn't ready to be accepted as that.
And it's such a conundrum, isn't it? It's actually an oxymoron because a man who has got the guts and the balls to admit that he is not okay, that is a real man. A man who is hiding like a thief in the night, well,
Hmm.
that's not really a man in my books. It is more a caricature of a man, a mask that this man is trying to show us. It is the people that are hiding their drinking, They
Hmm.
are many, many steps behind those that have admitted that they had a problem, dealt with the underlying reasons that led them to drink, often enough depression, and then
Exactly.
restarted their life and created a new life that was just so beautiful that they could have never imagined that. So therefore, it is, I think, this message we need to bring out to every man out there in the world. Man up. And man up means that you actually admit that you are not that perfect hulk of a statue of marble of strength. No, you have got some cracks, man. Like it or lump it, and
Exactly.
you know
And
it may.
it's very unfortunate. I think with men especially, there is a lot of factors from the society. Men and women they're traditionally been, they've been assumed to behave in a certain way, whether it's in terms of mental health or whether it's come living in a daily day-to-day basis, and how a man should behave, or how masculinity looks like, or how a man should portray himself in front of his family, or in front of his, how he's supposed to be. And then you're going around and telling men that, oh, you need to accept your flaws, and you need to accept that you need help. It contradicts, and it's very few men who can understand the difference, because I'm a guy. I am born with this masculinity immersing out of me, and I am, I've got such a high, um what do you say, high position in a society, and I can't be telling people that I'm weak or I have a mental condition. And it's very unfortunate that society plays such an important part in the mindset of men, especially, because that's how they determine how they're going to behave in society, or how they can open up about their emotions or their mental conditions.
So true, so true. I mean, it's some professions have made a bit of a breakthrough in that. Certainly amongst doctors, the amount of burnout and depression, and unfortunately suicide and drug addiction, is quite enormous. So there are, in my College of Anesthetists here in Australasia, we certainly have got a strong welfare of anesthetists special interest group that is out there and is very active to say, look, guys, it is just a matter of time until you break. And, these are the things that you can do to prevent yourself. But sooner or later, something will happen. And then we have got now quite a lot of good systems in place to protect us from
Hmm.
this kind of charade of having to be the perfect doctor, the perfect nurse, the perfect this, perfect that. It is nowadays 2020. It has become normal for me in theater to say, "Hey guys, today is not my best day. I didn't sleep well. I'm probably 90%, maybe 85%. So guys, just keep an eye on me." And my
Hmm.
nurses and my team is doing exactly the same other way around. They come to me and say, "Look, my kid kept me up last night screaming, so I had 4 hours sleep. I'm a bit jaded." And that is so cool to admit, to have the power, to the freedom within a team to admit that. But it took
That,
a lot of work. It took a lot of
mhm.
time, a lot of daily leading by example, so that this culture has been now accepted. Certainly, when I am in theater, people accept that, and it is. They know my background. They know my history of addiction. I've certainly not concealed that, and I'm there for others to
Mhm.
explain. But I try to walk the walk. I try to lead by example, show integrity, show humility, show those things that really, in my eyes, make a man. And
Exactly. And And I think what you said, it's such a beautiful and such a great idea that if we start implementing this in all, not only in medical industry, but in all the other industry,
Yeah.
because I believe every job and every worker has their own, struggles in that particular work role. And if we implement this, I think it is such a nice and simple technique that you can implement at your
Mm,
workplace.
mm,
If you can't do it in your workplace, do it within your friend circle. If you don't have it in your friend circle, do it within your, your society, or your where you live, or
mm,
within a close circle. If you can't implement it on a bigger, and I think, in a simpler word, all we have to do is break the stigma around mental health, and around men's mental health, and around men opening up and men being vulnerable. And I think I feel more powerful personally when I go and I share my stories, and when a person goes to me, oh, you know what, I have gone through the same, and this what happened.
mm.
And I think the the more you open up, the more it helps others as well, because they can see your vulnerabilities, they can see that how broken you were and how stronger you have become. And I love that idea. I absolutely love that idea, what you have implemented at your workplace.
And the same. See, I was a very manly man, and I would have been not very happy to show my real emotions apart from anger in the past. Yet I've
Hmm.
got two sons, and I have handed them my alcoholic genes, and maybe certainly their mummy and their daddy had a bout of depression too. So it is just a
Hmm.
matter of chances, and the chances are stacked against them. So they have got a predisposition, probably for mental health problems and addiction. But I think what I have achieved by now living the life that I want to live, I have shown them in real life how men behave, and that men actually talk, and that men actually listen, and that men actually
Hmm.
explore their problems. And this is such a beautiful thing. When my youngest was 13 or 14, he was quite a bit in trouble at school, a bit of bullying there, and he took himself off to see the school nurse, who was also a counselor, and completely by himself. We only heard
Hmm.
from that in with hindsight, but he had seen the progress I had made by seeking help in rehab and then working my recovery. And he took that to heart without probably even realizing what was happening, but he saw the real life lesson played out in front of him. And
Hmm.
he was able to follow suit and seek the help that he needed. And this was such a humbling experience. And for all the men out there who are listening, guys, it is one thing to say something and demand respect because you're in the position of the breadwinner or whatever the cliche is, and what your actions are. And it is, I think we need to lead far more with our actions and need to reflect what each and every step we take, each and every decision we make, what that really shows to the immediate people around us, our sons, our daughters, our wives, or indeed, in the wider sense, the people that we touch with our journey. I think
Totally.
there's a lot that we can do by just living in the right way, and just behaving in such a way like you want to be treated by others. And we sometimes forget
Mhm.
that.
No, exactly. And I completely agree what you said. It's, when it comes to parenting, and I'm a father of two myself, and if I compare me as a person now and me as a person 6, 7 years ago, I'm a very different person,
Hmm.
and your kids, like how we as a kid picked up from our parents and from from our siblings. It is exactly the same thing. Your kids, even though you're not teaching them directly, they pick up things consciously, subconsciously from you. And if that's the person you want your kids to be, then it's fine. If you want, for example, I don't want my kids to be like me, then I have to take actions, and I have to take certain actions now. It's now or never. I if I don't want a bad trait of me to be passed on to my kids, I need to change that bad trait first before I can force upon on my kids. And as we grow, eh, we as a human, when we are growing up, we are growing up according to the reality of others. We are growing up how our parents are want us to believe, and there's a lot of belief system, there's a lot of work required to change your belief system. If I'm growing up with a fixed mindset that whether it's my belief system around happiness or around relationship or around money, that's gonna pass on to my kids as well, because that's how I have grown up. So it's very crucial, if your kids look at you, if you're fortunate enough to have both the parents, if you are a single parent, your kids are looking each and everything, and they're observing and they're learning on a very constant basis, and it starts from a very, very young age. So if my kid now see me being a man of the family, the breadwinner, but at the same time I'm also fragile, I'm also emotional, I'm also opening up and discussing my issues, they will automatically do that as well.
And how beautiful is that? That is, man, it makes me humble, really, really humble to see where I have been and where I've come to now. Instead of pride or something like that, it's kind of a pride, but it's far more humility and far more, I'm grateful that I've made this journey and that I've become the man I'm now, and that therefore I have prevented my sons becoming that person that I was. I think this would have been an awful thing for me to see them growing into what I was. This would have been brutal.
I can imagine. I can imagine. It was quite funny. I was reading on a Facebook, on one of these dads group, and there was a post like, "Would you allow your daughter to be in a relationship with a person like you?" And
oh, that's a good one.
and it's actually very, if you think of the question, it's a very intelligent question. And it was quite inspiring to see the answers to that question. Like, how many people actually want their kids to be in a relationship with a person like who you are? And it was a very thought-provoking question for me, and it triggered me. It comes to going back, reflecting back on yourself, like, okay, how good of a person I am, or how bad of a person I am. So I totally understand where you're coming from, and when I see myself 6-7 years ago, and when I see myself now, I think I am I'm a better human being than anything. And I think that's what really, really, really matters. If you are whatever relationship, man, female, man, women, you are a dad or whatever you are, at the end of the day, the first thing you are a human being. And that's what you need to be. You need to be a better human than anything before.
Indeed, right. You were saying earlier, you were discussing the shock when your GP held a mirror in front of your face and said, "Here, I recommend you to take some medication." Was the shock related to the fact that you were labeled, so to speak, as depressed, or was the shock related to the fact that you had to take some medication?
No, the first part. It was the
Mm,
first reason.
yeah.
I was not shocked that, oh, I'm going to be labeled as this depressed person. I'm going to be labeled as this. Yeah,
Mm,
I'm going to be labeled. It was more of a fear
yeah.
than anything else.
Mm. No, it's a good point. What I want to say, just for the sake of the listeners here, I think medications can very much be part and parcel of the initial management of the really bad depressions. There's a wide spectrum of depression, from relatively mild, sad blues to actually life-threatening changes within you. So I think it's quite important that at some stage, at the start, ideally, that a GP or a family physician is involved to just check you out. Because
Mhm.
sometimes there can be good reasons why you are sad. If your thyroid gland is not working so well, then that gives you a lot of signs and symptoms of depression. And there are other biological reasons why you might actually be depressed. Yet, if you treat the underlying reason, then all the symptoms go away. Now, that happens probably in, I don't know, 1 in 20 or so cases of depression, maybe less, 1 in 30. But it is still, it's silly to go onto a journey of medications and of hard work to change your life when in fact something medically is actually wrong with you. So I think that's the first thing I want to say. So go out there. If you have got a problem, actually talk to your GP, and he will give you a once over, have a look underneath the hood, and figure out if there's a problem. And if not, then it's time to explore, and it's time to move down the road that probably you and I have been on, and that road is beautiful. I That's the other thing I want to say is, with hindsight, virtually everyone is amazed how much they have grown, and they would have not grown had they not gone onto that journey. So therefore, whilst you are finding yourself now in a situation that is scary and not something that you wanted to be in, it is what it is. And if you play your cards right, then you're heading towards a new life that is just simply fantastic. But you need help. You need someone to guide you. So Suhaib, if a man, if a friend of you comes to you one day and says, look, I've kept it hidden for so long, but I'm actually really down and out, and I feel terrible deep inside. What would your approach be? What would you do?
And I was just thinking, it's quite funny that quite recently, few people approached me, when they start, when I start telling them about what I'm doing, and then start listening to the different podcasts and stuff. So no, few people did approach me, and asked me for, what should I do. But because I am also completing my CBT certificate, and I'm also an NLP practitioner,
Hmm.
I can obviously ask them the questions, and I can obviously coach them, and for like just like the initial stage, to see if they are medically, if they need a medical help, or if I can help them. But firstly, I think this is the message for every person, regardless of your gender. If you think that there is 0.0000001% of chances, or you are having a kind of uh, condition or symptoms, please go and speak and talk. It doesn't have to be your physician, it doesn't have to be your doctor, because it took me a while, personally, to go and seek a medical help, because I wasn't open to it, I wasn't ready for it.
Hmm.
It took me, I was constant denial, and I was constantly trying to avoid to go and see a GP. But you need to go and open up. You need to go and speak to someone. You need to go and talk to someone. So if a friend come and approach me, I would obviously handle it. I would actually thank him for coming and talk to me. That would be my first thing. Is like,
I do
thank
exactly the
you.
same.
Not,
Yeah,
not
exactly.
choosing me, not choosing me particularly, but choosing someone to open up and to talk.
Yeah.
That's my first approach. And obviously, I will listen to that person. It's really important that you don't judge that person, whoever's come to you. You don't judge. You don't make an opinion about that person. And I think, what you said, that once you got on a journey and when you reflect back, it's very liberating. For me, it was a very, very liberating feeling. It was very empowering for me to understand my flaws and understand my vulnerabilities and understand my weaknesses. So it depends on the person who I'm with. The least I could do is I could be a good listener, and I would, listen to that person, whatever that person has to say, without being judgmental or having my opinion or what's right or what's wrong. And if I believe that person needs, it's beyond my expertise or it's beyond my comprehension, then obviously I would advise him either to seek medical help or to see a different person or see a therapist.
Mm.
But it's very crucial that whoever's coming to you, if you can't be a good ear, then there's no point. You have to have a good ear listening for whoever's coming to you.
Very true. Very true. And I do understand that you are indeed working with men. And I mean, what is your vision? What would you like to achieve? What are you building up to? What is your direction?
So my ultimate goal, plan, vision is to set up a men's charity, which covers different aspects of mental health, which covers different aspects of issues that men faces these days. I would love to help as many men, as many fathers as possible. You know, and really, I want to break this stigma. I want to break this the whole cultural societal thing that men has to man up, or the man has to be of this certain,
Yeah.
we are not gods. We are not gods. We are human. We are born with imperfections, and I think it's more manly for a man to accept his imperfections
Mm.
and to improve those imperfections. And I think every man needs to understand that. It's quite funny. I wrote an article and I posted on a men's group, and I've said this before as well, that the amount of criticism I received from men, it was unbelievable. And it's a lot of
Really?
it's a lot of yeah, it was quite surprising, but it was quite funny to read. I think there's a lot of education that is required to educate men, and I think my vision for my charity is to educate men to be a better human, to be a better person, to be a better man, to be a better father,
Mm.
brother, friend, or whatever the relationship. So that's my ultimate vision, to set up this charity. There was a client of mine who came to me a few months ago, and he wanted some legal help. He wasn't. He was. I normally call it survivor. He was a survivor of a domestic abuse. Now, again, that's a very taboo subject that no man wants to talk about.
Mm.
Again, stigma, fear, labeling around it. So this person, I was coaching him, and as I was trying to help him, and he wanted some legal advice on domestic violence. And obviously, I'm not the expert there. And I actually struggle to find a men's charity which covers that aspect um, of how men can get help in that aspect.
Mm.
So, and that kind of like it opened my eyes in so many ways, that there's so much work that can be done in this particular field, in this particular area. And I want to break that stigma. I want to break the taboo, and I want to make um, a better life for men, because I want men to be better version of themselves, and that's what my whole vision is.
Amen. Yes, 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 yes. I mean, there was recently a social experiment in which a female and a male actor were asked in public to attack each other, and they had exactly the same script and just role reversed. So in one setting, the girl was shouting at her partner and was beating him up, literally beating him up, and hidden cameras around it basically looked at the reactions of the people that watched, and it was sort of, yeah, go girl, you show him, yeah, give that swine what he deserves. And then they role reversed and went to another place and did exactly the same sentences, exactly the same thing, other way around. This time he beat her with the same force, the same, just exactly the same thing. And you should have seen the uproar. How dare he? Yeah, and so on and so on. So it's very different, different. What should I say? It's very different how we approach exactly the same thing. And which man does admit that he is being beaten at home, that he's cuckolded, whatever you call it, it is not something that any man will admit, unless
I think I personally think it's far more worse than men accepting to mental illness or depression than accepting that I'm beaten up by women at home,
mm. And
and
there are
it's very
some.
unfortunate.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know the statistics, but they would probably be quite harrowing. And it is, uh, please, there is very much the Me Too movement out there, but it's lovely to actually hear that there are voices like yours out there who are specifically looking out for men without the cliches, without the stupid masks, without the perceptions. They're actually looking what is really going on and working with what we truly see as what is happening. And every circumstance will be different. As you said earlier on, yes, you just have to, you can't judge. You need to take each and every case by its own virtues. Whatever is happening is happening. That doesn't mean to say that these men don't need help. They need the help, all the help they can get. Now that's brilliant.
Exactly.
If someone wants to get hold of you and wants to work with you specifically, is there a way?
Yes, of course. Obviously, I prefer to do face to face and one on one.
Mm.
I'm a very I'm a very human when it comes to when it comes to that. I like to look at people. I like to look at their reactions. So obviously, with the current situation, face to face is not going to happen. But no, you can reach me on my Facebook page. You can reach me on my Instagram, which is I am Zuhaib Khan. My Facebook page is Zuhaib Khan. My coaching page is Mindset and Behavior Coach Zach. And I can do Zoom calls, and however, if it's a UK, then obviously I hope after lockdown I can meet some lovely human beings after lockdown face to face.
Mm. Oh, beautiful. And I'm going to put some links to all of these social media platforms of yours down into the description of the podcast. So it will be easy for people to just look down and click on the relevant buttons. No, I'm so pleased, Zuhaib. I mean, this was a fantastic interview. I am so grateful to hear what you're doing, and I so wish you all the energy and all the power of the universe to drive you to success in your charity. It is
Thank you
something
so
that
much.
very much needs to be out there. So good luck with that. And I'm so grateful that you came onto my show tonight. This was actually a very eye-opening experience for me, because I had to reflect quite a few of my own experiences here. So it is, as always, when we try to teach others, we learn a lot about ourselves. So here you go.
It's my pleasure, and I'm very privileged to talk about a topic which is very close to my heart.
Hmm.
So thank you for giving me that opportunity. And I know that I'm going to make a bigger impact in human life, and it's just one of my first steps towards my goal. And and it's just I just need people to understand that we are in this together, and I think it's only we can only help ourselves. So no, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Suhaib, I wish you all the best, my man. Okay. Take care. Look after yourself. And the
Thank
same to you all out there, all the listeners out there. Make tonight, make today, make a little decision that makes your own life a little bit better and the lives that you're touching around yourselves. And tomorrow, same thing again and again. Make this a better world. We can do it, guys. We can do it. Look after yourself. Bye.